of this here safe. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Liz Colon. I'm a senior education consultant here at FranConnect. You can go ahead and see our welcome screen here, just some of the handy dandy tools that you have available here to you on GoToTraining. Next up, again, we're going to talk about transferring ownership here today. So we're going to talk about how we transfer from a location having one owner to having a different owner during perhaps a buyout situation. And so we're going to cover that here today. This is me down here. I am part of the education services team here at FranConnect, and so I am your expert for today. Feel free to stump me. I see a familiar name on my call. She stumps me fairly frequently, so I expect that we will have a question today that I'll need to follow up with on. Otherwise, we're covering transfer. All right, so we're going to cover transfer. It's our topic of the week. Then we're going to open up the floor for questions, so you can ask me any question about any module after we're done with our topic of the week. And last but not least, if you think of a question during the week that's either related to this or to a different topic, feel free to email us at training@franconnect.com. Love to see your questions come through, and most of the time we can answer them on the spot. If they require some research, it'll take normally about a day to get back to you, so feel free to email us. So I'm going to hop out of the system here and hop into FranConnect. I am already set up an information manager. Again, this lesson is on transferring locations. So for those of you on the line here with me, I've been a franchisee before. I know what it's like. You're running a business, and for one reason or another, your franchisee decides that they no longer want to continue. Perhaps they're at the end of their agreement, and we want to go ahead and sell the franchise to another person because this is a successful unit. Perhaps it's in the middle of a term that they decide that they want to go ahead and sell their location as long as their contract allows. So transfers occur when a current owner is selling their location. This can occur at renewal or during the contract term. So there's a couple of different ways that we handle transfers in the FranConnect system. The first way is a new franchisee. I'm just going to navigate here into a record. A new franchisee takes over the location and keeps the franchise ID, sorry about that, and keeps the franchise ID and the record, okay? So the new location takes over, or the new franchisee takes over, keeps the franchise ID and the record, okay? The second way, which is what I'm going to cover here first, actually, is the new franchisee gets a new franchise ID, and we choose which parts of the record we want to carry over. So I've navigated here for those of you. I know I've got a lot of tenure folks on my line here today. Information Manager, into my franchisees, into my franchisee record, and then onto the Transfer tab, okay? If for some reason in your system you do not see the Transfer tab, it may be because it has not been turned on by your team, and so that can be done in the admin section. So we're going to see here on the transfer page that we have the option to make a choice. Either we're going to assign a new franchise ID or we're going to keep the existing. We have a field left here for inputting the new ID. If we're assigning a new ID, in this particular case we are going to select which of the records that are part of the prior owner that we want to go ahead and move over. In this case, I've got a couple here that I've sort of written down and taken some notes on that we want to make sure that we move over. So addresses, perhaps we want to move over customer complaints, perhaps there's something outstanding that we want the new owner to resolve, or just to get a good picture of what were some things that happened with the old owner, and now we can take a look and make sure those things don't occur again with the new owner. Our employees, our general manager is staying on board here with us through the transfer, and maybe our QA history. What were some problematic things for field ops that now we want to make sure we can resolve with this new owner? Okay. We'll also bring over any documents. Perhaps we have some important things stored in there that we want to go ahead and hang on to. And so in this particular case, I'm working in store number 1013. we're working through a transfer process, which is what's stored on this page. We are going to assign a new franchise ID in addition to deciding which parts of the prior owner's record will carry over to the new owner. You'll see here that we have quite a few fields for inputting financial information, buyer stages, and other details. Now, I want to let you know at the bottom of this page, as you initiate the transfer process, you can initiate it without actually completing it. So you see there's two buttons here at the bottom. We can fill out some of the details of this form as we're working through the process of transferring the record. At the point where we decide, okay, this is now effective, we have a new owner that's a franchisee of this location, we can go ahead then and transfer complete this record, okay? And that will make sure that the new owner takes over this record as a new franchise ID with the specific parts of the record that we've identified, and the old owner becomes a previous owner listed on the previous franchisee's page. Okay, and so again, we can input data as we are moving through the transfer process, and we do have the ability to have statuses here. Okay, so just like you may have a sales process steps that you may be going through here on the transfer side of things, you may have transfer process steps that you want to go ahead and work through. Okay, so this is our main form. I'm going to go ahead and just fill in our required fields here today. We'll go ahead and fill in royalty reporting date and our transfer type. And you can see that we've got a couple. Is it a transferred license, a renewed license, or a new one altogether? It may depend on how you operate inside your organization. We'll call this one new. And we can go ahead then and fill in the remaining fields. You'll see at the bottom that we have the same buyer details that we have in other areas of the system. Moving a sale to opener or a sale to information manager gives you these owner details where we can select individual, entity, a new owner, or existing owner. So just like we've seen other areas of the system where we can select from existing owners, if we happen to have this buyer be someone who is already in our franchise system, maybe they own the store that's 5 miles away and they're going to be acquiring this one as well, we can actually select that person here from the list. In this particular case, we've got a new owner. I'm going to go ahead and input his information. All right, so I can go ahead and add this, but assuming that I need to collect more information on this transfer and continue to work with this record as things progress with the transfer. For today's purposes, because I want to demo what occurs when we move store 1013 to store 1021 and then select just the specific records we want to move, I'm going to go ahead and click Transfer Complete. When I do this, I'm going to get a request by the system to confirm that I want to do this. Okay, because once I select Transfer Complete, there is no going back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Submit at this point. And now my store 2021 now exists with Jim Stone as the owner. So I'm going to go and I'm going to come here and we can see now in previous franchisees that Sam Baker, our former owner, is now listed as just that, our former owner. My customer complaint file that I wanted to transfer over also did transfer over, as did the other tabs that I wanted to move over. Now, because Jim Stone has a completely new agreement, we did not retain that record from the prior owner. We can go ahead and fill in the agreement information for Jim specifically and not for Sam, the prior owner, okay? Questions about what happens when I assign a new franchise ID? You can raise your hand or put them in the chat window. Okay. Now we're going to explore what happens when we don't assign a new franchise ID. What happens with the record? So here under franchisees, I'm going to go ahead and select another one. And this is store number 1012. So I'm just going to go ahead and search for it rather than scroll for it. This is our Virginia Beach store owned by John Smith. Very creative name he has. And we're going to go ahead and initiate a transfer on John's record. Now, John, the way that we may be an organization, assuming that we're two different organizations in this example, one that selects to use new franchise IDs and one that selects to keep the franchise ID the same. Now, I will tell you, for those of you who are on the line with me, that 90% of the franchisors that I speak to retain the old franchise ID or retain it through the transfer process. The franchise ID is specific to the location, not necessarily the owner, and so that franchisee remains with the location even though we may turn over the owner. And that's what I see probably about 90% of the time. So if any of you are on the line and you're fairly new or you're not really sure how you want to handle this as an organization, that's how I see it handled most of the time. So in that particular case, if we're an organization that assigns the ID to the location, not to the owner, then we're going to say no to the new franchise ID. And see what happens here? We no longer have the option to select which parts of the record move over. Now, that is something on our radar for the future, to potentially also tell the system which parts of the record we want to transfer over. I think we've got a few requests for that historically, and so that option may be available to you as well with the no answer in the coming future. However, when we select no today, we're not given the option to select which records we want to move to the new owner. The system automatically moves all of the records over to the new owner for us, okay? That way we do have the comprehensive and historical record of the prior owner along with the new owner. Now this page is exactly the same as the prior page. We're going to answer the same questions. What type of transfer is this? What's new? What's the status of it? We're going to say transfer complete because I am going to process this today. Transfer as of, and the finalized date. And then we can fill out the remaining areas here along with our new owner. All right, and again, we can choose the same options down here below. If Kyle happens to be an owner of ours already, we can go ahead and select him from the group. In this particular case, he's not. And again, for the purposes of our demonstration today, I'm going to go ahead and complete this transfer, even though we can select add and continue to collect data on Kyle as we go through. I'm going to go ahead and click transfer complete. Sorry about this, everyone. All right, so we're going to hit transfer complete. Okay, so at this point we have our screen here where we can go ahead and confirm that we're going to go ahead and make this change and transfer ownership, and then we're going to go ahead and click submit and click OK. At this point, now you can see that our 10, 12 locations still remain, because remember, our franchise ID has stayed the same even though we've transferred ownership. So I'm going to come here to 10, 12, and I'm now going to look at my previous franchisees, and we're going to see Mary Smith here and John Smith, who are our owners. Okay. We're going to see that the records, the fields that we did have filled out for this specific record still remain here. And our new owner shows up under the owner details section. All right, everyone. What questions do you have for me with regards to transferring and keeping the ID? Okay, let me see. There's a question in the chat window. If we retain the franchise ID, is there a place to track the time period the former owner owned the location? So here under previous franchisees, we have type of ownership. It doesn't look like it shows us how long. Franchisee details, spouse. Hang on just a second for me. I'm going to explore where we might be able to do something with that. That's a good question. It looks like because that is an automated page that the details are generated on, that I don't have any way to add a field in there for you to capture those previous owner details. But that's a recommendation I can make to the team, because we are making some adjustments to this for one of the future releases. So time period, previous owner. That's a good question, Mark. Is there a particular reason that you're wanting that? And I know that sort of sounds like a silly question to ask. It seems obvious, but maybe there's a certain way that you're using that data that can help with the recommendation to the team for that field. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured, Mark. So he says that they just keep it on record and they add it to the former owner name manually. Yeah, it would seem that it would be beneficial to have that on the previous owner's page. We don't have in the form generator any ability to manipulate that field, so I can certainly request that since they are working on the transfer process right now. Not that the process will change. They're just adding some functionality in one of the, it's on the radar essentially, to be able to select a current sales lead actually and pull them into the owner field rather than having to re-input their information. So that's something that we've got on the radar. So why not add this too, right? Well, thanks, Mark, for your question. What other questions do we have? Feel free to raise your hand too if you'd like to ask your question to me verbally. Okay, Kelly, that's a good one. Do you want me to take you off mute? Go ahead, Kel.
Good morning.
Good morning. Long time no talk. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I am looking for how would you change ownership where the say there are multiple owners, a father and a son, and the son takes full ownership from the father who retires. So it's not going to a new franchise ID, it's not going to an existing owner outside of their organization. It's a matter of someone's selling his shares to an existing owner. So how do you move that existing owner to the previous? Yeah, move him out.
Yeah.
And you might have to take that one offline.
Yeah, we might. But I wonder if I can initiate a transfer and select, I don't know, I don't think I can select one of the two owners from my list. Let's take a look. I'm willing to explore it. There may be somebody else on the line who has that question, so I don't mind kind of exploring it, and if we can't find an answer here today, I can follow up with everybody about it. So if I come here to 1015 and I want to initiate a transfer, let's see who my owners are first. I've got Carl, and then let me see, add owner, new owner profile, managing. This is Carl. This is Carl's daughter, Jen. Okay. We'll add Jen. All right, so let's see. Can I initiate a transfer where the franchise ID remains the same? Or just, is this a transferred license, Kelly? We're just kind of transferring it out of both names into one name?
Yeah.
Or is it considered new? Okay. Let's see. I can choose Jen from my list and what happens. It's asking for an MUID. Well, I can't, I'm not going to break the training system, right? It's already. This is a 1015. Let's see, previous franchisees, Carl and Jen. Current owners, just Jen.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. One of those times where the example we're practicing with actually works, right? So
yeah, I'll try that on a couple of ours. We had done a workaround, and so I'll see if we can clean up our system then. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Hopefully, yeah, that works for you. Any other questions?
Just, I'm taking this another step further. What if you have, say, 5 owners? You have a father and his children all own some part of it, and you just want to move the father over and leave the and split up his shares between the remaining children. I'll try that one myself offline.
I think we can. So when we initiate the transfer, I think we can select multiple owners. So let's go back and take a look at that. You don't have to take it offline, Cal. I think these are all really good questions, and I'm sure there's somebody else on the line who has them too. So I'm pretty sure that down here at the bottom, when we select from existing owners, we have the option to select the checkbox. So each owner is going to have his own profile. And so if it's Amanda and Amari and Bailey and Bethany, who are all the kids, we can actually select all of them to be our new owners. And then that will put Dad in the previous owner section. It'll also put these guys in the previous owner, as we just saw. So as we just saw with the last location, it does put Jen in previous owner, but it also puts her in the owner field. So just for you to see. So then you can see that Jen and Carl are both here. And then this is so an indicator to you that at some point Jen and Carl both owned it, right? And now Jen is the owner. And then I'm sure at some point in your center info, you can, or in your contact history, you can put a note that was 50-50% owned by Jen and her dad. Dad got out of the business, Jen took over. So what'll happen is all 4 of those other owners for that location, Cal, will show up on the previous franchisees, but then they'll also then show up here on the owners, and we'll see that Dad was bought out.
Okay, do you mind going to the list summary page? I just want to see what it looks like when you see the list of franchises.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And oh, you don't show owner there. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, the owner's here, right here.
Ah, okay.
So it's just showing as Jen now, not Jen and Carl.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions from anybody on here? Give it a few minutes. Any hands? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you 30 minutes back at your Friday. But before I do, I just want to remind you all that you can access the training department during the week with any questions that you may not have been able to ask here today. At training@frameconnect.com. Again, that's training@frameconnect.com. I'm happy to sort of work through any of these questions that Kelly asked via that link as well if you have something specific to your, or that email if you have something specific to your organization that you'd like to go ahead and ask us. So don't be shy, feel free to let us know, and we will get back to you. Oh, and Kelly, thank you so much for asking that question. We will be moving Ask the Experts to once a month, so yes, we will be updating the list of topics. Kelly wanted to know what's coming up in the future. Don't have that list just yet. I know we're going to be covering mobile again. We're going to be covering text messaging again here coming up soon, because when we first ran that class, there have been some enhancements to text messaging since then. So we've got a couple of things coming up here in the works, but we'll be moving ATE to once a month to garner a larger audience and to make sure the topics are super relevant for you and, you know, just, you know, well prepared and so on. So if there's any additional questions, please let me know. If not, you're all free to go.